Have you ever found yourself listening to someone speak English, maybe in a movie, a podcast, or even a real conversation, and suddenly your brain just freezes? The words are flying by so fast, you recognize a few here and there, but most of it feels like a blur. You nod politely, maybe smile, but deep inside you feel frustrated because you didn't really catch what was said. If you've experienced that moment, trust me, you're not alone. Every English learner has been there at some point. I was there too. I remember watching my first English movie without subtitles. Everyone around me was laughing at the jokes, and I was sitting there pretending to understand while secretly wondering how they could hear so clearly when all I caught were a few scattered words like, yes, no, or, okay. That's the thing about listening. It feels like such a natural skill, something that should come automatically with time, but in reality, it's one of the hardest parts of mastering English. Reading can be slow, writing can be practiced step by step, but listening happens in real time. You don't get to pause people when they're talking in the real world. You don't get to ask actors in a movie to repeat the same line 10 times slower. So if you want to understand, you have to train your ears and your brain to work faster, sharper, and more in sync with real English. And that's exactly what we're going to explore today. This video is about 5 powerful strategies that can truly change the way you listen to English. These aren't quick hacks that promise miracles overnight, because let's be real, language doesn't work that way. But if you start applying them consistently, you'll notice a huge difference in how much you understand and how confident you feel when listening. So, let's jump right into the first big idea. Imagine for a moment that listening to English is like listening to music. When you hear your favorite song, you don't need to understand every single note or every single instrument to enjoy it. You get the rhythm, the mood, the feeling. That's the first strategy. Stop obsessing over understanding every single word. So many learners make the mistake of panicking when they miss a word. The speaker says something like, "So yesterday I went to the..." and suddenly there's a word you don't recognize, and your brain freezes. You start rewinding in your head, trying to guess what it could be, and by the time you're done, you've missed the next 10 sentences. That's exhausting, and it kills your confidence. Instead, you need to train yourself to let go. Yes, let go of the idea of perfect understanding. Focus on the main idea, the feeling, the context. If someone tells you, "Yesterday I went to the blah 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 with my friend," you probably already know they're talking about a place. Maybe it was a park, maybe a cafe, maybe a movie theater. You don't need to know the exact word right away. What matters is that you caught the overall message. Over time, as you keep listening, those missing pieces will fill themselves in naturally. Think of it like a puzzle. You don't need to have all the pieces to see the picture. Now, you might be wondering, but how do I train myself to stop panicking when I miss a word? The answer is practice and exposure. A simple exercise you can do is listen to short audio clips and give yourself permission to not pause, not rewind, not translate. Just listen once, and then try to explain in your own words what you think it was about. Even if you only understood half, that's still progress, because you're teaching your brain to focus on the message instead of obsessing over details. And when you do this regularly, you'll notice that your brain becomes more relaxed, more open, and surprisingly, you'll start catching more and more words naturally without even trying too hard. Let me give you an example from my own journey. I used to listen to TED Talks when I was learning, and at first, I only understood maybe 30%. I wanted to give up because it felt useless. But instead, I made it a habit to listen without pausing, then write down just 3 or 4 sentences about what I thought the talk was about. A month later, without changing anything else, I realized I was catching almost 60 or 70%. Why? Because I had trained myself to listen for meaning, not perfection. That shift made all the difference. Now, once you learn to relax and focus on the big picture, there's another strategy that will speed up your improvement even more. And that's to listen to the same content multiple times, but in different ways. This might sound boring at first, but hear me out. Let's say you choose a 5-minute podcast or a short YouTube video. The first time, you just listen without stopping, even if you miss a lot. The second time, you might turn on subtitles or read a transcript while listening. Suddenly, words that felt like noise become clear. Then, the third time, you listen again without subtitles, and guess what? Those same words that felt impossible at first are now recognizable. It's like shining a light on something hidden in the dark. This method works because your brain loves patterns. When you hear the same sentence multiple times, especially in different contexts, first just by sound, then with text, then again with sound, it starts building stronger connections. The first time, maybe you thought the speaker said ship, when it was actually cheap. The second time, with subtitles, you catch the correct word. The third time, your ear has already learned the sound, and suddenly you hear sheep clearly. That's how listening grows. It's not about hearing something once and magically understanding. It's about repeating in smart, intentional ways until your brain adjusts. This repetition also builds confidence. Imagine listening to a podcast episode 3 times. At first, it's confusing. The second time, it feels clearer. The third time, you feel almost fluent because you recognize so much. That feeling of progress motivates you to keep going. And motivation is everything when it comes to language learning. If you feel like you're improving, you'll keep practicing. If you feel stuck, you'll quit. So giving yourself this sense of visible progress is a powerful way to keep your momentum alive. One of my favorite personal exercises with this method was using TV show clips. I would pick a funny scene, something just 2 or 3 minutes long, and watch it once with no subtitles. Total chaos. Then I'd watch it again with subtitles and realize, oh, that's what they were saying. Then I'd watch it a third time without subtitles, and suddenly I could laugh at the jokes because I actually understood them. That little cycle of repetition turned what used to be noise into clear, enjoyable English. And when you enjoy listening, you do it more often, which creates a beautiful cycle of improvement. So, if we put these 2 strategies together, letting go of perfection and using smart repetition, you already have a solid foundation for transforming your listening skills. One helps you stay relaxed and focused on meaning, while the other trains your brain to recognize real patterns and sounds in English. And as we move forward, these ideas will connect naturally to even more practical ways to sharpen your listening. Because once your brain learns not to panic and starts to recognize patterns through repetition, you're ready to take on new challenges that make listening even more effective and fun. By now you can probably feel the shift. Just changing your mindset, letting go of perfection, and then combining that with smart repetition already makes listening feel less like torture and more like discovery. But there's still something missing. Because listening is not only about your ears. It's also about how much your brain is prepared for what it hears. That's why the third strategy is all about context. Think about the last time you tried to watch a movie in English without knowing the story. Every scene felt confusing because you had no idea what was going on. But if you already read a summary or knew the basic plot, suddenly the same dialogue felt 10 times easier. That's the power of context. Your brain doesn't start from zero. It already has a map of what might happen, and that map makes it easier to fill in the gaps. When I first realized this, it completely changed the way I practiced listening. I used to dive into random English podcasts with no preparation, and I'd feel lost almost immediately. But when I started preparing just a little bit, reading the title, checking the description, sometimes even learning a few keywords beforehand, I noticed I could follow much more. My brain wasn't busy trying to guess the topic. It was free to actually focus on the sounds and the flow of the conversation. You can try this yourself with something as simple as a YouTube video. Before you hit play, look at the title. Ask yourself, what words might appear in this video? What's the general topic? If the title is, How to Cook the Perfect Pasta, you can already expect words like boil, water, salt, sauce, taste. When you actually hear them, your brain goes, yes, I was waiting for that. That small moment of recognition gives you confidence and makes the listening experience smoother. This is also why graded readers, podcasts with transcripts, or videos with subtitles are such powerful tools. You don't always have to use the subtitles at the same time as the audio. Sometimes just glancing at the transcript first, then listening without reading, can give your brain the context it needs to process the sounds better. It's like walking into a party where you already know who's there and what they're talking about. It feels less intimidating. Now let's push this idea of context even further. One of the smartest ways to build listening skills is to stick with one theme for a while instead of jumping randomly. For example, if you listen to 5 different podcasts this week, all about totally different topics, sports, science, cooking, business, travel, you're going to feel like every new episode throws a new vocabulary jungle at you. But if you choose one theme, say travel, and listen to several episodes about it, you'll start recognizing repeated words and phrases. Ticket, airport, luggage, delay, hotel, sightseeing. The more they repeat, the faster your brain connects them. Suddenly you're not just practicing listening, you're building a mini dictionary inside your mind, and that makes comprehension flow so much easier. This leads naturally into the 4th strategy, active listening. Now I know what you might be thinking. Isn't all listening active? Not really. Most of the time, when people say they're listening to English, they're actually half distracted. They put on a podcast while scrolling on their phone, or they watch a TV show while thinking about something else. That's passive listening. It helps a little, but it won't give you the deep progress you want. Active listening means you're fully present. You're not just letting English wash over you, you're interacting with it. So how do you do that? Here's a simple exercise I love, shadowing. You listen to a short sentence, then pause, and try to repeat it exactly as you heard it. Same rhythm, same speed, same pronunciation. At first, it feels impossible. Your tongue feels heavy, the words come out wrong, and you wonder if you'll ever sound natural. But the magic is in the effort. By trying to copy what you hear, your brain starts paying attention to details you normally ignore. The rise and fall of intonation, the way words connect, the small sounds that disappear in fast speech. Even if you can't repeat perfectly, your ears get sharper. The next time you hear the same phrase, you'll recognize it instantly. Another version of active listening is dictation. Take a 1-minute audio clip, listen carefully, and write down every word you catch. The first time, you'll miss a lot, and that's okay. Then check the transcript or subtitles, compare with your notes, and listen again. Every time you do this, you notice new sounds and train your ear to catch them next time. It's a little more work than just sitting back and watching Netflix, but the progress you get is so much faster. And let me tell you a little story about how active listening changed one of my students. She used to complain that she could never understand native speakers in real conversations. She thought she just needed more exposure, so she listened to hours of English every day, music, podcasts, shows, but she wasn't improving much. Then she switched her routine. Instead of listening for hours passively, she started with just 10 minutes a day of shadowing and dictation. Within 3 months, her listening comprehension doubled. She was finally able to follow conversations without constantly asking people to repeat themselves. That's the difference between passive and active practice. One feels easy but slow, the other feels challenging but incredibly effective. And here's the best part. Active listening doesn't just improve your listening, it also improves your speaking. Because when you shadow or dictate, you're training your mouth and your brain at the same time. You start noticing the exact rhythm and sound of natural English, and that naturally makes your own speech smoother. It's like killing two birds with one stone. You're not only understanding more, but you're also preparing yourself to sound more natural when you speak. So far, we've touched on some really powerful ideas, using context to prepare your brain and practicing active listening to sharpen your ears. But there's one more key that ties them all together, and it's something that often gets overlooked. That's emotional connection. You might not think emotions have much to do with listening, but they're actually the fuel that makes your brain remember. Think about it. Which conversations do you remember best? Those boring classroom dialogues about, "Where is the library?" Or the funny, dramatic, emotional scenes from your favorite movie? Obviously the second. When something makes you laugh, cry, or feel curious, your brain pays more attention. You don't just hear the words, you live them. And that's when listening becomes unforgettable. That's why choosing the right content is so important. If you only listen to random lessons you find boring, your brain will resist. But if you listen to stories, shows, or podcasts that truly interest you, your brain lights up. Suddenly, listening isn't a chore anymore. It's something you look forward to. For me, it was comedy shows. I loved them, even when I didn't understand half the jokes at first. But because I wanted to laugh with everyone else, I kept watching. And little by little, the words that were once impossible became crystal clear. So, as you move deeper into your listening practice, always ask yourself, do I actually enjoy this? If the answer is no, switch to something else. Find topics that excite you. Because when your heart is in it, your brain will follow naturally. And that emotional connection is what prepares us for the final key strategy. The one that brings everything together and transforms listening from a struggle into a natural part of your daily life. Now, let's step into the final key that ties everything together: consistency. It might sound simple, but it's the hidden ingredient that transforms listening from an occasional practice into a permanent skill. You can use context, you can practice active listening, you can even choose the most exciting shows or podcasts in the world. But if you only do it once in a while, your brain won't keep the progress. Listening is like a muscle. You don't build strength by going to the gym once a month. You build it by showing up regularly, even for short sessions. And here's the good news: consistency doesn't mean hours and hours of work every day. In fact, shorter, focused sessions are often more powerful than long, distracted ones. 10 minutes of shadowing daily will take you further than 2 hours of half listening once a week. It's the rhythm that matters. Your brain loves patterns, and when it sees English appearing in your daily routine, every morning while you make coffee, or every night before bed, it starts to treat English as a normal part of life, not some rare activity that requires extra effort. I remember one learner who struggled for years to understand English movies. She kept waiting for the perfect time to study. 2 free hours on the weekend, no distractions, the right mindset. But life always got in the way, and she barely practiced. Then she changed her strategy. Instead of waiting for a perfect time, she created a tiny daily habit: 10 minutes of listening practice right after brushing her teeth in the morning. No excuses. Just 10 minutes, every single day. Within 6 months, she didn't just notice improvement, she was shocked by how natural English started to feel. That's the magic of consistency. Of course, staying consistent is not always easy. Some days you'll feel tired, distracted, or discouraged. That's why it helps to connect listening with something you already do every day. If you drink coffee every morning, pair it with a short podcast. If you commute to work, make that your listening time. If you scroll on your phone at night, replace 10 minutes of scrolling with 10 minutes of shadowing. When listening becomes part of your routine, it stops being a question of, "Will I practice today?" and becomes automatic, like brushing your teeth. And here's something important. Don't measure your progress by how much you understand each day. Progress in listening is sneaky. It grows quietly in the background. One day you'll be listening to a podcast, half distracted, and suddenly realize, "Wait a second, I just understood that whole sentence without thinking." That's when you know consistency is paying off. Now, let's take a step back and see the bigger picture. We've explored strategies like preparing your brain with context, practicing actively instead of passively, choosing content that excites you, and staying consistent. Together, they form a system. Context clears the path. Active listening sharpens your ears. Emotional connection gives you the motivation to keep going. And consistency cements everything into long-term skill. If you bring these strategies together, listening stops being this mysterious, frustrating challenge. It becomes natural, almost effortless, because your brain gets used to English in the same way it once got used to your native language. And that's really the secret. You don't need magic. You just need smart practice, daily effort, and a willingness to stay patient with yourself. But let's not forget the most important thing, enjoying the journey. English listening is not just about exams, jobs, or opportunities. It's about opening doors to new worlds. Think of the thousands of podcasts, the endless movies, the inspiring speeches, the hilarious jokes, the touching stories, all waiting for you once your ears are ready. Every new word you catch is like finding a key to a bigger room in the house of language. And there are always more rooms to discover. So here's my encouragement to you. Don't worry about being perfect, don't stress about speed, and don't give up when it feels slow. Improvement is happening, even on the days you don't notice it. Trust the process, celebrate the small wins, and keep moving forward. One day, without even realizing it, you'll find yourself laughing at an English comedy show, following a deep conversation in a movie, or enjoying a podcast while cooking dinner, and it won't feel like study anymore. It will just feel like life. Before we finish, I want to hear from you. What's the hardest part of English listening for you right now? Is it catching fast speech, recognizing vocabulary, or staying consistent with practice? Share your experience in the comments. I'd love to know your story. Maybe your question will inspire the next video. And if this video gave you even one new idea, don't forget to hit the like button. It helps the channel grow and reach more learners just like you. Subscribe if you haven't already, because we've got plenty more tips, strategies, and inspiring stories coming your way. And share this video with a friend who might be struggling with English listening too. You never know how much it might help them. Remember, every step you take matters. Even 5 minutes of listening today is better than waiting for the perfect moment tomorrow. So keep going, keep practicing, and keep believing in yourself. You're not just learning a language, you're building a new way of connecting with the world. Here's to your journey, your progress, and your future confidence. Keep your ears open, your heart motivated, and your consistency strong. Because with the right mindset and the right strategies, mastering English listening is not a dream. It's just the next step waiting for you.